First one is called The Keeper of the Flame, as written by a Rebecca Miles. See a floating camera past my head. Lightning cracks the dark in a second's flash. In a moment of bone-white brilliance, stone angels pulse to life before darkness claims them once more. I start counting slowly under my breath. 1 and 2 and 3 and... hurriedly passing crosses and tombstones bearing names and dates carved deep into my memory. The thunder rumbles in the distance, but not as far away as I would like. I quicken my step along the graveyard's overgrown path, reaching the tower as lightning illuminates the solid oak door. Thunder for a second time, like the storm is knocking, seeking entrance. I shudder at the thought, quickly opening, then closing the door, striding up the spiral steps 2 at a time, beneath the flickering wall-mounted oil lamps, as if I am racing the storm. I have been taking this stairway to the heavens for the last 7 years. Ever since I scooped earth, once, then twice, scattering it on my parents' twin caskets as they were lowered into their graves. 1 times 7 is 7. I had learned that much at least when my uncle collected me from school for the last time. How many steps have I walked since that day? Too many to calculate. It is easier to chant the sum of my years. 2 times 7 are 14. As I reach the final flight of stairs, stepping out into the cool night air, where the tower opens like a palm. I don't see him at first as he is crouched over the ancestral fire, burning taper in hand, with his back towards me. But I hear my uncle's voice, sonorous as a gong. Keeper of the flame? Yes, the very same. My mind doesn't even need to think of the word for my tongue to form them. Come to guard the ancestral light. Yes, the whole long night. I stepped forward through the ring of darkness towards the central fire, set to burn long before I drew breath. For the flames danced high when my parents were keepers. My grandparents, too, and so on. Right back to my ancestors' strong hand struck the very first spark in this tower, on All Hallows' Eve, so very long ago. Perhaps he'd been warming himself by the fire, perhaps lighting a new taper from the iron box which stands next to it. Finished, he stands slowly, turning to meet me. His face cast immediately into shadow as the light dances behind him. He is a proud, erect figure, sturdy and strong as the tower upon which he stands. 12 out of every 24 hours. Like me, he wears black from head to toe. Black boots to the knee, and a thick wool cloak, for the days are as often just as cold as the nights here. We're so high up. The hills inch even higher, aspiring to the mountain's heights, peaking just beyond. He holds out the taper, and in the flash of light as it passes from his hand to mine, his normally composed face cracks briefly with what seems to be fear. Hurriedly I step back, and his heavy-browed eyes are plunged into darkness. I wait for him to speak again, but he doesn't, and the silence unsettles me. Uncle, a storm is approaching. Help me carry the 12 candles for the dead inside, or fix the glass protectors. I had meant to soften my request with a could and a please, but the lightning's whip cracked again, just as the words left my mouth, and all politeness was thrashed clean out of the sentence. Uncle must take this for impertinence. You know only the keeper can guard the flames. He snaps, a whip himself. Now is your allotted time. It is for you to protect the fire and ensure the candles burn until I resume my watch in 12 hours. The thunder booms around the tower's circular turrets, lending its deep voice to my tiny one, my uncle's equally commanding tone. Just remember, he says as the tower steps, each soul depends on you to light it on its way. Keep the fire burning. The darkness of the tower swallows his silhouette, and I am left to parrot the expected response, forever, to the empty air. There is no time to worry, as the wind seems to have been waiting for his departure to fill its cheeks and blow. Simultaneously, each of the 12 candles gutter, flames bending horribly. Kneeling in submission into the wind, I leapt to my work. The iron box where the tapers are stored is also keeping place for the protective glass which can shelter each candle's light. And I fling open the lid, trying to balance the need for speed with the equal need for care. Each cover is domed and made of thick glass, but there are only 12. And even if one smashes, then my labors will have been in vain. In 2 strides, I am at January's candle, and I carefully place the cover over the wavering flame, repeating the words I recite every time I transfer the flame from the stump of an old candle to the one waiting wick of a new one. January is dead. I light you the way. Flame in the darkness. Keep chaos at bay. I hurry back to the box and pick up another cover before making my way to the second candle within the ring of fire. February is dead. I light you the way. Flame in the darkness. Keep chaos at bay. I place the covers one at a time over the fragile lights, waiting a brief moment to see the flame straighten and stand tall. Kneeling over the candles for the dead of March, April, and May, lowering the glass over the summer months, the dead of June, July, and August. I wait with each flame's recovery for a rekindling of hope, willing it to come. I stoop and shield, and yet no hope glimmers in my chest. The calendar of candles will soon be complete, for I am 2/3 around the circle. September is dead. I light you the way. Flame in the darkness, keep chaos at bay. For it is chaos that must be kept at bay, I remind myself, stealing to the iron box before returning to the ring of candles. This is what my uncle had told me when he took me from school that fateful day, leading me from the classroom. The other students hushed to silence by the teacher's commands, returning my books to the library, hanging my satchel at its peg before turning me to the school gate to face the tower, looming tall above every house, church, and tree. Nothing is more important in life than keeping chaos under control, he said, ignoring my tears for my lost parents and my lost life chances. He led me to the tower, and we climbed the steps. I trailed his brisk stride, half hoping to hear the lighter step of my mother, or my father somewhere on the flight of stairs ahead. But their feet were no longer walking this earth. Look up and cast your eyes only down upon the work set before you, my uncle said, when we stood upon the very top near the open tower, our heads brushing the roof of the sky. Above you is nothing but chaos, a vortex of black waiting to suck you in, where no light shines and no soul can find a way. I must have looked sufficiently horrified as he continued in a kindlier manner. But we too are the keepers of the flame, illuminating the paths for departing souls to follow. If we too do our work properly, no one needs to fear the long journey from our earth to the stars. The candles will always be there. He looked at me expectantly. Guiding the way. I had said it, believing it to be true. That I could set these lights, which would be beacons, ensuring no soul would be stray. Now I say it in a voice that wavers, and I feel a spark of deep fear inside me, ready to fireball out of control. For it does not matter how many times I transfer the light, tend the ancestral fire, or chant the words, the embers of fear are still deep inside me. I try to put it out always. I think of my mother and father, how proud they would be that I am a keeper of the flames, just as they were. But then I remember my small self, watching their determined and busy manner as they tended the lights. Never a glimpse of doubt in their eyes, and all I feel is shame. The wind strengthens, and the flames of the 3 remaining candles lurch. Sparks of the ancestral fire burst into the sky. I grab one of the 3 remaining glasses and head for October's light, willing the storm, the chaos, to be kept at bay a little longer. October's dead. I light you the way. Flame in the darkness. But as I say the words and lower the cover, the quick fingers of the wind pinch out the flame. The glass falls from my hand, splintering on the stones. My hand drops to my side as I kneel beside the thin tendril of smoke rising from the spent wick. This has never happened before. I am the keeper of the flame, and I have failed. October is dead. How will they find the way? And how will I keep that chaos at bay? All Hallows' Eve, the night when we say the dead might walk the earth. October, the month my parents' souls took flight. What if they are lost now, looking for my light, thinking sadly how their son has failed in the task they performed so well? Another gust whips the tears from my eyes. The wind tears around the turret like it's possessed with a diabolical energy. Round it goes. January's cover falls to the ground, and the flame dies. February likewise, and on it races to March. I stand frozen, the horrified calm at the center of the storm, watching as the wind crashes and smashes until there is only a shattered glass of ring and a dark. But in the center of the tower, the ancestral fire still burns. As the wind lashes the fire into a fury of sparks once more, an idea forms. Surely all I must do is light the candles from the fire, and all will be well. The dead will find their way, and my uncle will never know I had failed. Slipping on the shards of glass, I stagger against the wind to the fire and thrust the taper into the flames, ignoring the blazing heat as it licks up my hands and arm. The wind howls as it gets horrified by my plan. Its shriek is the summons for the deluge to start. The clouds mass and torrents of water rain down. My flying hair is plastered to my face. My thick wool cloak hangs heavier than a stone. There is nothing I can do but fling my head back and howl at the blasted storm, the chaos that has come and engulfed the ancestral fire, turning it into sodden ash. Then take it, I scream my rage into the night. Take it, and take me too. Nothing. The wind dies and the rain ceases. The clouds scatter as fast as they had collected. The storm has come and gone, leaving me alone, encircled by darkness. What will my uncle say? He will climb the tower's spiral stairs, reach the tower's top. Instead of 12 proud candles and a roaring fire, he will be greeted by 12 markers of shame and a beaten boy. The night seems to creep closer, encircling me. Then light cracks the dark in a second's flash. I think the storm has returned. This bone-white brilliance and its lightning's angry blast. But it isn't. I turn my face for the first time upwards, and I see the moon move purposely out from behind the last inky cloud. At first, its strong beam is all I can see, pouring its light upon me. But as my eyes become accustomed to this radiance, I see new pinpricks tremble into life. Deep in the dark, sparks of light wink back to me. 1, 2, 10, 100, thousands, infinite numbers beyond any I could have counted. For the last 7 years I have trained my eye to the ground, battled the wind and the weather, nursing the flames in this belief that this is the way to light for the souls, to send them to the stars. But the souls need no keepers of the flame. Here, in these heavens, are moonbeams enough to guide the way. Stars blaze from the furthest depths of the galaxy, and the light shoots its arrows straight and true to me, standing right here, in another place, in another time. Above my head, the stars join hands, links in a chain of hope. I stare in a wide-eyed, open-mouthed wonder and laugh at how I have gotten it all wrong. Here are the guiding lights. Here the whole universe illuminates the star paths and meteor trails we must follow. If this is chaos, then it shines bright with a brilliance and an order all of its own. A familiar strong hand is upon my shoulder, and I turn to see my uncle at my side. I have been so engrossed in the heavens that I never heard his heavy steps, even as I walked over the broken glass. I have only ever seen him in the frail flickering light of the candles, and I see him now by the moon and the starlight with new eyes. "You see it at last," he says, smiling. "The flames for the dead we keep are about us, in the heavens and in our hearts. These candles, the fire, are tokens, signs. But why did you never tell me? Why did you let me fear the chaos? Make me tend the candles for so long? To let you feel the wonder what I felt when the same happened to me 3 years ago." My face must be a picture as he breaks into an unusual and beautiful smile. "Don't think, Keeper of the Flames, this is the first storm the tower has seen." There's a glimmer of laughter in his eyes as he reaches deep into his dark cloak and pulls out flint stones. "Wet wood is a pain to light, but let's see what we can do." We kneel together in the ashes and strike the stones together. As the sparks fly and the kindling takes, I feel it light for the first time the strongest of flames, a flame of hope. That is the story, The Keeper of the Flame, as written by Rebecca Miles. It'll take just a moment so I can get a quick drink of water, and then I will go on. Okay. Give me about 30 seconds, and I will get a quick drink. Okay. Right next to the flame is probably the best. That way you can be in the video as well. And both today's stories have fire as a theme. Okay. The next story is another one with a good message called The Firebird's Answer, as written by Phoebe Barr. It's a long way down. So long that looking down feels like falling. And looking out, you can't quite tell which way is up. And looking up, you might as well be adrift in an ocean the size of the universe. My toes curl at the sight, a vain attempt to make the worn-out soles of my sneakers grip harder on the polished stones. Do I really have to? I say. My guide chuckles. He is a large, lumbering sort of man, broad-shouldered and deep-voiced, and the chuckle sounds like two boulders crashing together. He introduced himself to me as the spirit of the mountain when I entered the caves miles below. He's led me up narrow, twisting passageways. his flickering torch the only source of illumination. In the several days we've been on this journey to the peak, he's fed me on bitter-tasting roots and damp moss, and taken care of my safety. Not once has he offered me another name to call him. The Firebird is a creature of perpetual flight, he says. There's no chance of finding him if you stick to mountainsides. I gaze out again into the abyss, barely visible as the sunset paints the sky to the west. A tense orange thread leads away from the cliff's edge. It doesn't even look thick enough to hold my weight, I say. And I'm not a tightrope walker. I wouldn't know how to keep my balance. The trick is to keep moving, he rumbles, as if you're riding what is that human invention called? A bicycle. I had never loved riding bicycles either. As far as I'm concerned, the closer my feet are to the ground, the better. Maybe, the thought occurs to me for the 1,000th time as I watch the thread ripple slightly in the wind. Maybe I'd be better giving this whole endeavor up. Going home and living out the rest of my life pinned by gravity. But I've lived that way already for 15 years. And I know I can't survive 15 more like them. I've seen others flying through the air like they weigh nothing. I need to find out how to do the same. You're better be going, says my guide. It will be dark soon, and you'll want to reach him before dawn. I nod, but when I step forward towards the thread, and when I feel the rising mountain wind on my cheeks, this all seems utterly impossible again. Everyone goes to see the Firebird at least once, or so I'm told. For most people it happens when they're children. Curiosity tugs them towards the mountain top. Maybe they get lost and need to find a way home. Or maybe they go and ask a remedy for a parent or friend's sickness. I had no questions when I was that age. I kept my head low and my thoughts lower. I thought when I became a teenager that I wouldn't ever have a question so burning it required the Firebird to answer. But in recent years, I felt the want, the deep, aching want to fly. And I haven't been able to talk myself out of it. And so I've come up to walk the thread after all. Like a bicycle, I shut my eyes. The trick, I think hard, is to just keep moving. Thousands have done this before me. Who needed the Firebird's help? It must not be as impossible as it seems from solid ground. So long as I don't realize how far I have to fall, I'll be fine. So long as I keep my thoughts ahead. Are you ready? My guide prompts. The sun has faded to a strip of gold on the horizon. The orange thread glows faintly in the navy night. I put out my foot. Just leaning out far enough to do so sends my head spinning with vertigo. The world below is so small. I could be looking at it through a funhouse mirror. The cliff is so sheer it seems concave. I draw back, take a deep gulp of mountain air, working to steady my nerves. Look out, not down. Never down, or I won't make it a single step. I try again, I fix my eyes straight ahead, but there's nothing to see straight ahead. Wherever the Firebird sits, it's too far away to glimpse from here. The clouds obscure the light of its flaming wings. Still, better ahead than below. I put out my foot, jaw clenched so hard it hurts, and take my first step onto the thread. For a split second, I'm certain it's going to break. It dips more than it should, more than I like, and it makes creaking sounds like the boards of a ship caught in a windstorm. It holds, but only barely. Tiny strands of it seem already to be snapping under me. I list out dangerously to the right and almost overcompensate by toppling to the left. I throw out my arms for balance and come close to tumbling backward. Out. I make my other foot move. Stay in motion, just like a bicycle. I'm not looking down, but I can see the drop in my mind's eye. I can still feel as though it's a real sensation, the air rushing past me as I plummet to the unforgiving rocks below. If this thread breaks, or if I lose my footing, or if I lean too far, or 100 other things, this vast emptiness will be the last thing I ever see. Finally, I settle my eyes upon the thread several yards in front of me. I keep my gaze steady. I can know where to put my feet and not be subject to my view of the ground. I take another step, and another. The squeaks of the thread echoing in my ears like claps of thunder. The fear has always been here, in nightmares about falling from airplanes, in my studied avoidance of the Ferris wheel and roller coasters my friends liked, in the dizziness that comes over me seeing a flight of stairs without railings, the fear that freezes all the air in my lungs and sets my mind going in circles. I can't think clearly now because of it. Only wisps of thought are graspable under the crushing weight of every imagined disaster scenario. I have to be determined on what I thought I cling to. I could imagine myself walking an inch from the ground. If the thread were that low, I wouldn't mind walking on it at all. I'd be able to keep my balance and my motion without a second thought. I could shut my eyes and convince myself that's what I'm doing. But that would only work for a moment, I remember. Eventually, where I am, and opening my eyes onto the scene that would probably paralyze me completely. There is nothing for it but to keep going and hope it all ends soon. But it doesn't end. There's still no sign of the Firebird in front of me. The wind picks up instead, and it's harder suddenly to keep my posture straight and my shoulders from leaning. Cold bites at my fingers and worms its way through my shoes and my toes. I shudder, rubbing my hands over the sleeves of my sweatshirt. The night is full black now, and cloudier than ever. Tiny droplets of moisture are condensing like sweat on my brow, my neck, and the tip of my nose. The wind, though, is still strengthening. The thread is too taut under my weight to sway, but it shivers. My sweatshirt's hood flaps behind me. I hunch forward to make myself harder to blow over. My hands shake. What am I doing? What did I climb that mountain for? What did I set out on this impossible trek for? I've always stayed as low as I can, and I've survived like that. What makes me want to fly so badly? Why won't the fierce longing in my chest leave me alone and let me walk in safety? I'm numb now, too numb to even feel the thread beneath my feet. I shouldn't have come here. Another gust of wind. My next step goes off and lands on empty air. Dread snaps into panic. Suddenly there's nothing solid beneath me at all. Not even an illusion of support. Suddenly I'm no longer upright. My arms windmill. My legs kick out fruitlessly. But gravity has me now and is yanking me downward. No. I'm spinning. Or the world is. The night air is hurtling by me. I can already see myself landing. See my neck snapping on a rock. See myself tossed onto the forces of nature I have no control over. I can already feel the tearing wind and the snatched away breath and the impact. The impact. It's already happened. 100 times in my mind and over and over. No! On some mad instinct, I retch myself upright, and then my knees are bent, my arms flung over my head, and inexplicably, I'm still. I blink. It takes a few seconds for the world to resolve itself again in my vision. I'm standing on another thread. The same thin orange thread I was walking on before, but lower down. Slowly I let my breath out. Yes, there's more than one thread that leads to the Firebird. And if I have landed on another, hope stirs again in my chest. Then I must be getting close. My jaw clenches again. Resolve kindles around my doubt, warming me as the freezing wind continues to howl around. I need to see the Firebird. There's no option of turning back, and even if there was, even I could wish it and be back on the mountain, back down the stairs and grounded, I wouldn't take it. I won't let this fear bar me from what I've always wanted in my life. Forward. I straighten and move. I'll allow myself to see nothing but the thread. A little ahead, and then farther and farther. My toes barely touching as I come near to running. The fear has been with me all my life. I've let it weigh down my feet and my shoulders, my eyes. I've resented it, but I've acquiesced. No more. When tomorrow comes, I'm going to laugh at gravity, if it takes every ounce of courage and strength I've learned. And then I see it. At first, it's nothing but a flicker, and I think I might be my imagination. But it gets bigger, and the faster I run, the bigger it gets. And soon it gains shape and form and brightness. A pair of gigantic golden wings, tongues of flame leaping up from them into the star-dusted sky. A pair of talons that grip. I see as I move closer onto an interwoven net of orange threads like a spiderweb. A head and a beak pointed straight to the sky as he sings, a song like every pipe of an organ sounding at once. Firebird, I call. The wings sweep down. I do my best to calm my breathing as I approach. It's easy now to stop moving on the thread. I can't lose my balance when my eyes are fixed on this colossal creature. Its head moves down as its ruby eyes find me. Firebird, I shout. I have a question. It blinks, slow and deliberate. I stand still and wait for its response. I don't believe it. I'm really here. I really made it from the mountain. All left I to do is ask. If I understand its answer, I can leave here gliding on the wind that fought me. When the Firebird speaks, it sounds like a song again. It sounds like playing of a master flutist. What do you seek, boy? The resolve is blazing through my veins now, warming my fingers again, stopping their trembling. It's crawling up my throat so my voice doesn't shake. I feel steady, though I still know I'm miles from the ground, though I know in some distant corner of my mind that my precarious perch on the thread hasn't changed. It's time for my life to change. It's time for it to begin. I want to fly, I say. How do I learn to fly? There's a long silence as he stares at me. Those eyes are twin flames that have burned without rest since the beginning of time. Then he throws his head back again, and his song returns. 100,000 blaring organ notes, louder than every symphony in the world playing at once. It makes the very world quake below it. But no, I think suddenly, it's not a song at all. It sounds now as if the organ pipes are clanging together. And I recognize the sound for what it is. Laughter. He laughs at my question. My throat goes tight. My palms begin to sweat. Why? You ask to fly, he repeats. He sounds incredulous. And then my gaze drifts to my feet again, and in the light of the Firebird's wings, I realize I can't see the thread anymore. I realize I can't feel it beneath my sneakers. There's a ringing in my ears, and it's not from the Firebird's song. Boy, he cries, as though addressing the heavens themselves. What do you think you have been doing? That is the story of the Firebird's answer, as written by a Phoebe Barr.